Hello everyone, JB Pranyani here from acysecurities, and today I got the chance to know more about our Chief Market Analyst, Alistair Schultz. Welcome, Alistair.
Thank you very much for having me. I look forward to our interview today.
As a bit of intro, can you tell us how did you start trading in the market?
Sure. So I actually got started learning about trading when I was about 15 through my dad. He's had an interest in it, right through the 80s and the early 90s, back before we even had technology to assist us with our trading. So realistically, I think my real start in my career was probably when I was about 19 or 20, and I had an internship working on the floor in the US. So I spent a lot of time going through different trading strategies and working on trade teams and shadowing some top performing guys in the US who were working out of Manhattan in various investment firms.
And how did your style change over time?
So I started as a technical trader entirely because that's what my dad was.
Yep.
But over time, I sort of outlearned what he could teach me, and then spent some time obviously in the US and learnt more there. And the more I developed my skills and the older I sort of got, and I found that I was leaning more towards a fundamental trader sort of perspective in some elements. But having never forgotten the technical trading side of things, I've used both. So these days I don't consider myself a technical analyst or a fundamental analyst. I look at myself as being someone who is a rational analyst and mixing the best of both worlds that are available to me at the time.
So for beginners, like for a new trader,
Yeah.
would you prefer them to trade in the currency market?
I think it really comes down to what you prefer personally. I wouldn't recommend one market over another to anyone, especially if they were beginning. I would implore them to look at everything available to you. Look at your Forex markets, look at your futures markets, your options markets, your stocks, whatever is available at your disposal. Go and have a look at it. If it's something that you can actually feasibly trade or work with, then I would encourage them to work that out for themselves, as opposed to giving them a spoon-fed solution. The journey of trading is not about copying what I do or the person next to me. When I was in New York, there was, the guy next to me trading would trade completely different to how I did. Whether that worked for him was great, but I couldn't always copy that because everyone has a different way of looking at things. So what I see in a chart, you may not always see in the chart being, that difference of opinion. So what works for them is really more important than what works for me or what I would recommend as far as a chart or a market would go. I tend to look at, okay, what do I like? So for me, I used to love gaming companies because I was into my gaming when I was a kid. So I can pick when a game from a good brand is coming out and then look for how well it's going to, and evaluate how well it might go, and that's where I sort of pick from it. The Lockheed Martin one was because I have an inherent interest in medical and military technology because it's generally at the pioneering edge of what we can do with ourselves and what we can do with technology. So as soon as I saw that there was a release for a new product coming out from Lockheed Martin that the US military was interested in and they were going to be getting funding, I went in on that. And it was one of those trades where as soon as you see that they're getting a cash injection from from the US, that you sort of go, well, you'd be silly not to try and take a position on it and follow it all the way through. It also happens to be my worst trade because I got out way too early thinking that even though I had doubled my money, I should have held on a little bit longer.
Okay, that's very interesting. And you also teach other people to trade. Is that a passion of yours?
It is. When it comes to teaching, I enjoy teaching people just in general, but it also comes with the capability of sort of solidifying your own knowledge. It's an age-old doctor sort of a thing. If you see one, you do one, you teach one, is how you can solidify the knowledge that you sort of have on any particular subject. And whilst these days I don't really need to see or do one to know how to teach it, when I first started out I didn't actually even think I was that good of a teacher, but it turns out that I've got a little bit of a knack for helping explain and turn things that are complex problems or complex concepts into stuff that's easy to understand for everyone. And that's where I've always tried to pride myself on that. I know a lot of my friends get bothersome when I start talking about this sort of stuff because they've all heard it about 100 times before.
In your opinion, what are a few traits a trader needs to be successful?
Any trader that's going to be trading full-time or intending to be full-time, I think they need to have resilience. I don't know of a professional trader out there who has not had a significant loss before where they have gone, I am quitting, and they've had that sort of thought process. And it has taken them a bit of time to get back on the bandwagon, especially from a psychological perspective. Trading is an incredibly psychological game. I mean, economics in itself is the behaviour of people and how they spend money. It's, you know, looking at the psychology of spending money to a certain degree. So when it comes to, you know, the traits that people need, I think resilience needs to be one of them, because you need to break through that sort of boundary and start solidifying that knowledge that you're developing. And without, you know, that dedication and the resilience to sort of build your own repertoire as a trader, it's very difficult for people to continue. I think the other one is that it's not so much a trait, but people tend to treat trading as a side gig or a side job, you know, something they can make a little bit of cash on the side with. And, you know, to a certain degree that you can, but if you expect full-time results for part-time effort, you're not going to get those full-time results. And you see it time and time again that the expectations of what you can turn trading into is different to what the reality of it is. You know, yes, there are stories and there are cases of people making large figures of money, but at the end of the day, it's just like any other business. You know, 95% of businesses fail, and that doesn't matter what business it is or where it's from. I mean, the figures could even be higher. I'm not entirely sure what the exact stat is these days, but in trade, that's why you see traders having the same thing, is that people don't come to trading with the idea of running it like a business. And if you do that, you can see astounding things occur. But if you are coming with part-time ambitions, then you're not going to be getting those full-time results. And I think that is something that, whilst not a trait, is inherently something that needs to be there. And that business savvy and that idea of knowing to manage your money and your positions is no different to managing a balance book or a cash flow statement for an enterprise of some other form.
Thank you for your time, Alistair, and welcome to ACY Securities.
Thank you very much.